I never thought I would be the one telling this story. I always imagined myself as the victim in some tragic love tale, not the villain. But here I am, sitting in the wreckage of what used to be my marriage, knowing full well that I lit the match that burned it all down. And the worst part? He didn't scream, he didn't rage, he didn't even give me the courtesy of a goodbye fight. He just walked away. Silent. And that silence is louder than any insult, heavier than any slammed door. His name is Daniel. To everyone else, he was the kind of man women begged God for. Steady, kind, patient. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was always there, holding me together when the world tried to tear me apart. And still, I betrayed him. I don't even know if I can explain why. Maybe it was boredom, maybe it was selfishness, maybe it was some twisted desire to feel wanted in a way that wasn't routine. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter now. The damage is done. It started small, as these things always do. Late night texts with someone I shouldn't have entertained. His name was Alex, an old flame who knew exactly how to push the right buttons. At first, it felt harmless, just catching up, reminiscing. Daniel trusted me, so I leaned on that trust, stretching it thin until it snapped. One dinner turned into a secret. One secret turned into a habit. And before I knew it, I had crossed the line I swore I never would. The guilt was there, of course. Some nights, I would crawl into bed beside Daniel, my chest tight with shame, wondering how I could look into the eyes of a man who would move mountains for me while I was busy digging holes beneath his feet. But instead of stopping, I convinced myself I could balance both worlds. I thought Daniel would never find out. I thought I was clever. But lies rot from the inside, and eventually they leak. He didn't confront me in anger when he found out. I'll never forget that moment. Daniel stood there in the kitchen, holding my phone in his hands, the screen still glowing with the words I never should have written. His face wasn't twisted with fury, it was blank, as if something inside him had just quietly shut down. He placed the phone on the counter, looked at me with eyes that no longer saw me the same way, and without a word he turned and walked out the door. No questions. No yelling. Just silence. And in that silence I realized something horrifying. I had wanted his attention, but now I had lost it forever. The silence became my punishment. At first, I thought maybe he would come back. Maybe Daniel just needed time to process, to let the anger cool before he demanded explanations or hurled accusations. But days turned into weeks and nothing came. No late-night texts asking why, no angry voicemails, not even a curt message about picking up his things. It was like he had erased me from his world entirely, and the emptiness he left behind was unbearable. I tried reaching out. I called his phone until the sound of the dial tone made me sick. I sent messages that ranged from desperate apologies to pathetic justifications. But he never answered. One by one, my words went into the void, and I began to understand that silence wasn't just his reaction. It was his choice. He had decided I wasn't worth even the effort of closure. And somehow, that cut deeper than any fight could have. The world around me didn't stay quiet, though. Friends who once smiled at me with warmth began to whisper when I entered the room. Some didn't bother whispering at all. They called me exactly what I was, a cheater, a liar, a fool who destroyed her own home. I could see the judgment in their eyes, the disgust dripping from their words. "What did you expect?" one of his closest friends said to my face. "You had a good man and you spat on it." At first, I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to explain that it wasn't so black and white, that there were moments in our marriage where I felt unseen, unheard. But every excuse tasted bitter, even to me. How could I claim loneliness when Daniel had been there, day in and day out, building a life with me, loving me in his quiet, steadfast way? The truth was simple. I wasn't lacking love. I was lacking discipline, gratitude, and loyalty. And now I was drowning in the consequences. Even my own family, who once adored Daniel, turned cold toward me. My mother, usually gentle and forgiving, couldn't even look at me without disappointment. "Do you realize what you threw away?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Men like him don't come twice in a lifetime." That sentence replayed in my head like a cruel mantra. Meanwhile, Daniel flourished in his absence. I heard through mutual friends that he had moved into a new apartment, was focusing on his career, even picking up hobbies he'd once set aside. They said he looked lighter, freer, like he had shed a burden. And I realized with a sharp sting that I had been the burden. My betrayal had freed him, but it chained me to guilt I couldn't escape. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake in the bed we once shared, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the memory of his silence. That moment in the kitchen replayed endlessly. The look on his face, the way he didn't shout, didn't break, just left. And each time I relived it, the silence grew louder, pressing down on me until I couldn't breathe. I wanted to be angry at him for leaving without a word, for denying me the chance to explain, to beg. But deep down, I knew his silence was the most powerful answer he could have given. It said, "You're not worth my pain. You're not worth my fight." The unraveling didn't happen all at once. It came in waves, sharp, merciless waves that pulled me under when I least expected it. I'd be at the grocery store and see a man holding his wife's hand, and suddenly my chest would tighten, my eyes burning as I thought, that could have been us. Or I'd hear a familiar song playing on the radio, one Daniel used to hum absent-mindedly while making coffee, and it felt like a blade twisting in my ribs. Everywhere I turned, I was haunted by the shadow of what I had lost. People stopped asking about me, stopped inviting me out. It was as if I carried a stain too visible to hide, one that made others uncomfortable. The woman who had it all but threw it away. It was a story that spread faster than any rumor I'd ever heard. And the cruel part? No one exaggerated. The truth was damning enough. I found myself replaying the affair over and over in my head, searching for meaning, justification, anything that could make me believe it hadn't been pure stupidity. But there was nothing. The man I cheated with didn't care about me, not really. It was shallow, fleeting, and when the dust settled, he vanished like smoke. There was no love there, no promise of a future, just temptation that I had been too weak to resist. And then there was Daniel, steady, faithful Daniel. The man who believed in me, trusted me, gave me the kind of loyalty people spend lifetimes searching for. I destroyed him, and yet he refused to destroy me back. His silence wasn't cruelty, it was grace, a final act of dignity that left me to face myself. He didn't need to shout or curse my name. Life itself became the sentence I had to serve. I started drinking more than I should, trying to dull the ache that wouldn't let go. Nights blurred into mornings, mornings into afternoons where I sat alone, staring at my phone like it was a lifeline that would never ring. I told myself I'd move on, that time heals everything, but the truth is, some wounds don't close. They just stay open, raw, reminding you every single day of the moment you burned down your own world. I used to believe that people exaggerated when they said guilt could eat you alive. Now I know better. It gnaws at me every waking hour, whispering the same words over and over. You did this. You had it coming. And they're right. Everyone who mocked me, who turned their backs, who said I deserved the pain. I can't even hate them, because it's the truth. Daniel never came back. Not once. Not for closure, not for revenge, not even for the belongings he left behind. It was as if he vanished into a better life, one I had no place in. And maybe that's the real punishment. Not just losing him, but knowing he's out there thriving while I am left behind in the wreckage I created. The silence remains. It wraps around me like a shroud, reminding me every single day that I ruined the one person who loved me without conditions. And as much as it breaks me, I know this. His silence will echo in me for the rest of my life, long after everyone else has stopped talking, because in the end he didn't need to say a word, his absence said it all.